Fear, I'm afraid, is at the heart, it's at the core of so much of our worst and most destructive behavior. My teacher, Fred Craddock, asked, well, do you know what jealousy is? He says, jealousy is just fear of losing someone you love. And do you know why people are greedy, he asks? It's a fear of insecurity. Why do kids cheat at school? Well, it's a fear of failing. Why do they lie about it? It's a fear of being punished. And on it goes. You could carry that into other aspects of life. Why do people drink? Well, for some people, it's a fear of feeling painful feelings. Why do people criticize those who disagree with them? Well, maybe it's a fear that they aren't quite as right as they think they are. And why do people reject and push other people away? Well, maybe it's a fear of being rejected and pushed away ourselves. Fear is at the heart of so much of our worst and our most destructive behavior. You know, as I think about it, fear is also, at least in part, a deeply spiritual matter. It's not just psychological. It's also spiritual. James Martin said, fear is so dangerous because it can turn us away from God. Fear can turn us away from God. Here's why. Because if we don't have this deep down fundamental trust that God is on our side, that God is holding us, that God will be with us no matter what, well, then we're always a little unsettled. We're tempted to see a threat in everything. We feel like we have to manage and control every situation ourselves instead of leaving it to God. Over my life, I would say that when I have failed to love well, fear usually has something to do with it. You know, I try to look confident up here on a Sunday. Maybe on a good Sunday I even do look confident. But a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, I have this secret fear that if people knew what I was really like, if they knew what I was really thinking, they wouldn't want to have anything to do with me. And that fear is not altogether unfounded. So, sometimes, again, not always, but sometimes I wind up keeping people at a distance from me so they won't find out what I'm really like and what I'm really thinking. The problem with that is that across all of that distance, it's pretty hard to love people, and it's hard for them to love me. Fear gets in the way of love. And there's also a part of me, again, it's not all of me, but there's a part of me that is afraid that I won't measure up, that I won't do well enough, I won't meet the standard. And when I let that part of me lead the way, well, then I do things like I exaggerate my accomplishments, or sometimes I even bring other people down so I can feel superior to them. You know, it turns out people don't like that very well. They don't find that very loving. Fear gets in the way of love. If you read through all of 1 John in the New Testament, and let's face it, what else do you have to do right now? There's nowhere to go. You could read all 5 chapters in just an hour this very afternoon. If you read through all of 1 John 4, you will see that it's written to a church that is under threat. It's a church going through a crisis. Heresy, oppression from outside, division from within. They were going through all of those things. And so given how stressed and frightened the people of that church must have been, it's surprising, in fact, it's impressive, that the advice 1 John gives is not to lash out at somebody, not to defend yourself, not to circle the wagons. No, the advice 1 John gives is to love, right? Now more than ever to love. Love the way that God loves. The answer to a crisis, the answer to distress is not to lash out. The answer is to love all the more.